Hey church, last week we talked about sharing your faith and some of the questions people might have and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to do a part two because I think we can talk a lot about the ideas behind sharing faith, but it really helps to be equipped with specific things that you can do, specific things that you can say, specific thoughts and ideas. But you don't want to be scripted. So if I was going to title this, I might say equipped but not scripted. You want to be prepared. You want to be ready to give an answer for the hope that you have, but you don't want to, have an elevator pitch where you know exactly what you're going to say, because that just feels inauthentic, and inauthenticity doesn't really sway hearts very well. So just a few thoughts for this week, and I think it'll be a little shorter than last time. The first one is think of your story very simply. Okay, if you're talking about, last week we said where the story of Jesus intersects with your story, how Jesus changed your life. Think of that very simply. Who was I before I knew Jesus? What was my life like? And that you may not think it's very exciting, but it might be relatable. So you don't need a big crazy story to tell people. But who was I before? What happened? How did Jesus meet me? Where was I? What was I? How old was I? Who was I? That kind of thing. And then what changed? So after I decided, maybe you talk about the struggle with how you decided to give your life to Jesus, or was it gradual? Was it instant? Whatever it was. And then what happened? How is your life now? What is your hope like now? What do you look forward to now? These kind of things. So just keep your story simple. Then when it comes to the gospel story, it's really helpful to learn kind of the sweeping arc of the story in the Bible. So we talk about creation, right? How God created a good world. And I don't mean debating creation versus evolution with someone. Maybe that has its place, but in your kind of general sharing of your story, it probably doesn't. But talking about creation, God created a good world, and then talk about the fall. Sin entered in. The humans made a choice. Adam chose deliberately to disobey God, and then corruption entered in, and then we see the whole story of Israel, God choosing people, and they're just failing. They're not measuring up. They're not doing what he says. They're not obeying. And then we get to God's initiative in sending his son living the perfect life that we were supposed to live, and then dying in our place, taking our punishment. But he was raised to life, and we will be raised with him. And then, as I said last week, end with the hope of looking forward to the new heavens and the new earth. You need to know this story arc, even if you don't know all the details, even if you can't spit it out in 20 seconds. But just knowing the story arc and how we fit into that is really helpful. And obviously centering on the cross of Jesus Christ and what that means for us. Another good tip is just be a questioner. Be a good questioner. Ask questions. What are their hopes? What are their dreams? How do they see the world? Why do bad things happen? Why do good things happen? You can ask lots of questions to kind of help you get along to the gospel story. Another really good tip, especially online, if you're, always in person is better, but if you're sharing your faith online, listen to people. In person, listen to people. Don't argue. Don't come back and say, hey, you're wrong and you need to think. Like we're gentle. We're supposed to be gentle and kind and patient. That's what people of God are like, says the Bible. So listen, don't argue. Two more. One is be a servant. That's really like when we see the example of Jesus. How did he reach people? He served and then he taught. So be a servant. Be someone who humbles yourself, who lowers yourself, who's really taking on those areas where I can serve others, I can love others, and that opens doors all the time. You can't only do that because then there's no message going out. But when we serve and proclaim at the same time, that's where people are willing and ready to listen. And then one last one that's really important, especially if you're kind of a really, intense churchgoer. Don't get stuck in a Christian bubble. I see that all the time, and it's happened with me all the time where I'm a pastor and I get stuck in this bubble where the only people I see are church people, and I talk to church people, and that's great for encouraging, but we need to get outside of our bubble. Join a club, join a gym, get out and play some sports, go, whatever you can do to get out into your community so that you're not just interacting with Christian people, because ultimately if we're going to get the gospel out there, It's going to be because we're out there. We need to be out in the community among people who don't know the Lord if we're going to share the life of Jesus with others. So I pray for you. I hope that this has been helpful and that you can grow in your ability to get the gospel out. Go in peace.